Oh, let's put the headphones on. Have you used headphones on a podcast before?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Not often. But.
All right, guys. Welcome to the podcast. We're currently putting our headphones on. Check 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Check.
Cool.
Yep.
So, dude, super happy to have you here. Dude, I know you're like an email marketing legend, and you know how to take people, especially in like the internet marketing and like high ticket coaching space. So I'd love to know from a high level, how do you look at emails, and dude, how did you get into the space?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I actually started out in Facebook ads, like a lot of people around like 2017, 2018. I learned a lot about them. I bought a course from this guy named Grant Cooper, who ran an agency called Social Vantage. And it was really good, right? Like a lot of people, they don't like courses, but if you take the course, you follow it, you get results. So after that, I went on Upwork and closed a couple of clients, and life was good. I didn't have to get a job after college, which I was thrilled about. I was making $3,700 a month, and I was chilling. But then one day I got the message from one of those clients. They said, "Hey, you're fired." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I opened Ads Manager. They didn't kick me out yet, and nothing changed. It was a lead campaign. The price didn't change per lead. And I was like, "What gives?" And they're like, "No, you're fired." And I was like, "No, I'm not fired. Tell me right now why you're firing me." And they're like, "Okay, fine. So we're getting these leads, but our emails are going to spam, and we're not making any money, so we have to cut this." And I said, "Let me fix this. I'll do it for free. But when I fix this, you have to keep paying me again." And it was a corporation, so they actually had to check and see if it was okay for me to work for free. And then they were like, "Okay, corporate said it's good. Work for free." So over the course of that summer, they went from $13K a month email revenue to 51. So almost a 4X. Just by me sending more emails, making sure they didn't go to spam, and making the emails have some kind of personality rather than just being like, "Hey, here's a thing, go buy it."
Interesting. Yeah, you know, the thing is for me, so obviously I run an agency in the marketing world, and one of my first clients, I got that same dreaded text from him years ago, and I remember like crushing it to the point where I'm watching the stats, and I'm like, "Oh, these guys are clients for life." And he texts me and says he's in the real estate space, like renting out homes. And he's like, "Hey, man, like, dude, we're full. You did such a good job. We don't need you anymore." And I was like, holy crap, like, you know, there's got to be a different way, which I love the model that you're kind of talking about, because you become the lifeblood of the company, right? They need you to thrive and survive.
Yeah, 100%. And it's something I've realized that, you know, if you really want to scale, and it's taken me years to learn this lesson, but you kind of have to open back up and offer more services. And that's what we're doing. So we can literally become the lifeblood of the business. And if they fire you, they practically lose their business. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Nice, man. So when it comes to email, what are the clients that you work with? Are there any big name clients maybe that we know of that you can speak on? I know a lot of clients don't necessarily like that. And what are the kind of clients that you typically work with?
Yeah, so most of the time it's going to be like high ticket coaches, consultants, things like that. We work best with them because they have really high margins, right? And if you can basically sell something with awesome margins and sell a lot of it, that client's going to crush it, and you can charge a really hefty fee, and they don't have to sit there like, you know, an e-com client and worry about like, okay, we have to worry about unit economics over here. But anyway, we worked with a lot of Joel Marion's portfolio companies. We've also consulted a lot of companies, done deliverability projects, VShred, BioTrust. There's a lot more. So it really just comes down to like the biggest people with the biggest lists and the biggest offers. They're going to crush it with us. And like I've helped Jason Capital with a deliverability project. Yeah, lots.
What's the biggest email list that you've worked on?
The biggest, millions. I mean,
Millions?
I'm not the one doing the work anymore. I'm running it. So I want to say probably in the 2 million range, but definitely in the millions. There's not too many clients like that, though. Probably 2 to 3 we have on roster right now.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, there's, if you think about it, right? Like if you're just like an ordinary person thinking it's like 2 million, might seem like a lot or might not seem like a lot, because if you compare it to like massive companies. But the truth is you could be running ads. I know guys who've been running ads doing $1 million months for 2 or 3 years, and their email list is like 300 or 400K. And so to have an email list in the millions of followers, you had to be building a list for a long time, and have a pretty deep pretty deeply entrenched in it. So with that being said, right, if you're looking at, let's say you're looking at a list that's 2 million people, you're not emailing that whole list, right?
Correct. Yeah, you definitely only want to email the engaged portion of it. And a lot of people, they think that quantity is more important than quality. It's not. My list has 23,000 people. I've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years now since I started building it. And yeah, I'm definitely just not going to hit the scale that a lot of our clients will hit because what I do is very niche, right? So like if I sell a supplement, that's way wider than selling agency services. But yeah, it takes a lot of time and effort and energy to build something like that. And you just got to make sure that you're talking to the highest quality people and not trying to email everybody on the list, right? Because over time, I've acquired probably 55, 60,000 people total, and I only email 23K. Now, some unsubscribed, and some of them, they just quit opening, so we kicked them off the list. We email about the last 90 days of engagers, right? So like if you engage at all within 3 months, we're going to email you. If you don't, then I'm not going to worry about it because I want to focus on the people who care.
So what's the psychology, like what's the thought behind that, right? Because if I'm looking at an email list and let's say I have 100,000 people on my list and maybe 35% of them are opening it every night or in the last 90 days. There's the possibility that one of those other 65,000 people might open this email. It might speak to them. They might be on their account. And so every time we're not emailing them, it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Is there like some massive flip side I'm not looking at?
Yeah. So every once in a while, I'll do a revival campaign and I'll just send an email. It's very simple. I change the from name to my initials. So instead of Troy Ericson, it'll say TE. And the subject will be remember me with a question mark. And it's just very curious. And it's a complete pattern interrupt compared to what they're used to seeing. And then in the email, I pretty much just remind them in a few sentences who I am, what I do, and why they should be on the list. So if I do that and keep it really simple and, maybe once every 3 months I'll do that, you can save some people back. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's the more that I've tried to really value quantity, the more I value quality. It's crazy because every single time that I've tried to just email as many people as possible, it just doesn't work as well as me focusing on the quality people because at some point you're going to run into a deliverability issue. If you open it up too much, your open rates drop. Google notices that. They start tanking your reputation, et cetera, et cetera. It's just kind of like this snowball effect of bad things that can happen if you email too many people.
Dude, that's so, I have so many questions. And, for me, when I first got into this industry, I was building my list and I probably had, at the time, maybe 8,000 people on my list, like not that big. And I hadn't sent a single email ever. But the thing about that list is the majority of it, I'll say 60-70% were buyers because we weren't really doing much list building. So, I've got 4,000 or 5,000 people that are buyers of my products, low ticket, mid ticket, high ticket stuff. And I haven't communicated with them once. Yeah. Do you see that?
You'd be surprised how common that is. Like people just like you who are very high level will tell me like, dude, I'm so sorry to tell you this. I know you're the email guy, but I don't email my list. And I'm like, hey, and actually I hear that probably once a week. And it's insane, but it comes down to one of two things. So at the lower level with newer business owners, they think they're going to annoy people. They think, oh my gosh, I don't like getting certain emails. So if I email people, they're going to hate me. They're going to come to my house. They're going to burn it down and the world is going to end. The reality, it's not true. Like people signed up for a reason. On the higher end with people like you, it's like you wear a lot of hats. You do a lot of things. You have a big business. There's a lot of things going on and some things get neglected even though they shouldn't. It's tough. Like there's things I should be doing right now too, but I'm busy.
I think that there is, like, when I looked at it, when I think back, the reasons I didn't email, and I think that other business owners are probably in the same category where they didn't email their list for a long period of time because they hate the spam thing. We were talking before we started here that about how people look at email marketers as like, you said, I don't know, what did you say? Like,
yeah, so even the guy setting up everything here, he's like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I have an email agency. He's like, oh, you're that guy? And I was like, yeah, I'm the guy. When you opt in, I email you. Mm-hmm. And I used to, when people got like mad, jokingly mad, I used to defend what I do. Be like, well, actually, we send really high value emails that people opt in for, and they're personality driven and they're fun. They're not just coupons and discounts all day. And the person would be like, oh, okay, makes sense. But now I'm like, yeah, that's me. I annoy the shit out of you in your inbox.
Interesting. So do you think that's really the case? Do you really think you're annoying the shit out of people in their inbox?
I do it to kind of joke back with them. The truth is that the vast majority of people, like outside of the marketing world, get an email, and just in general, when they hear the words email marketing, they think it's annoying. So I'm playing into that. But yeah, it's like the 80-20 principle, right? So like 20% of your list are going to be the die-hard fans. They're going to be your buyers. They're going to be people who just love what you do. And then the rest of them are either going to be somewhat interested or they're going to think you're annoying. And it's just how it is. And a lot of times when you try to convince the majority of something, you're just really going to struggle. So when people ask me, I just accept it now.
Dude, I have a buddy that worked for Grant Cardone back when he started increasing his email, how often, his frequency. And so what's interesting is he was emailing like a couple times a week at the time, and he increased to daily. And his team's like, I don't think that's a good idea. People are going to get pissed. They're going to unsubscribe. He's like, well, let's test it, right? Emails daily. People are getting pissed, unsubscribing, but the stats and the sales are going up. And so then he goes, all right, do 2 times a day. Same thing. He does that again until he gets to 5 times a day. And the whole marketing department's like, this is too much. He's like, all I know is the more we send, the more we make. Let's keep sending more emails. And it's a fascinating kind of, I guess, like paradox or I guess like problem, because it's like what is that sweet spot? Because if you keep emailing, yeah, you're making more money, but maybe you're burning through the list.
Yeah, 100%. And it's really just a trade-off. Because if you email early and often, that's awesome. Because somebody joins your list, that's when they're most likely to engage with you, most likely to buy. So I do twice a day, right, when somebody jumps on the list, and then I kind of cool off after that, especially if they don't take action, right? So then typically I'm doing about 1 a day. Sometimes I miss, so maybe like 5 times a week at the worst for me personally. For our clients, we don't miss a day, of course. But yeah, it's just you have to hit them early and often and understand that there's that vast majority of people. You're going to get more complaints. You're going to get people emailing you back saying they hate you. There's going to be people. I remember the first time I sent an email broadcast for one of my clients, not the one that I almost lost earlier, but the other one. And I clicked send, and maybe like 15 minutes later, I go to check the inbox, like really excited, like, hey, what do people like have to say? I'm super excited to interact with our audience. And the very first email popped up and it said, F you. Like, I was like, dude, this is rough. And that was like eye-opening to me. And I think a lot of business owners and team members, they see that and they get discouraged thinking that everybody hates them. And that's just the loudmouth people. And of course, you don't want to drive people nuts, but you got to make money. So there's that balance somewhere. I go really hard at the beginning, and then after that, I do 1 a day. Okay,
interesting. Yeah, I've definitely seen those before, where it's like they say "fuck you" or "get off," whatever it is. And I'm curious. I wonder if like Coca-Cola, for example, if they're sending an email to their list, are people? Do you think people are saying the same stuff back to Coke?
That's interesting because I think the input actually changes a lot, right? So in my world, it's like marketing agency. And unfortunately, a lot of people look at marketing agencies, especially since they're remote now, like it's not even a real business, right? So there's a lot of people who will do a lot of talking that would never say that to your face. Whereas Coca-Cola, the way that they speak to you would be more corporate and like much more not aggressive. Simply because they're a huge company and they're thinking about all the different things and their stakeholders, investors, and their valuation and like how every little thing affects their company. So they're more cautious. So they're probably not going to get as many people saying that, proportionately, of course. But yeah, it kind of depends on the input and what you tell people and how they view you based on their life experiences. And that's kind of the response that you get.
Yeah, it makes sense. I could see that. One of the things I had the first time I really experienced real email marketing. I actually hired a guy to write emails for me, like a copywriter, before I like knew how to write copy or anything like that. And I think it was charging like $200 an email, which is I think pretty standard in the industry. And we send the campaign out and we crush, and we do like $150,000 in like 3 days. And I'm like, holy crap, there's gold in my list. And then I'm like, okay, let me instead of using this copywriter who's charging me, $200 every email, I'm paying him $2,000 to write up a campaign. Let me like $2,000, like, for $3,000, I could probably find someone to work full time for me. So I ended up hiring a copywriter to like come work in my office, work full time. And dude, it was so interesting to see the way that some people write copy. One day I wake up to an email from myself, right? Because he's writing the copy from me. And it's when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Okay.
And the subject line was, why Russia invading Ukraine is a good thing.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, you are like, I didn't authorize that. Like, you just pissed off, however many, a couple 100,000 people on my list. Like, dude, like, no, that's not good.
Yeah, sometimes it's yeah, definitely. Now, not to that level, right? Because it's again one of those things where you have to figure out what the client's cool with and what they're not. But when it comes to like super sensitive topics, especially ones that like if it just started and he sent that email and you didn't see it, like I understand why you feel that way. And sometimes we'll send an email for a client, especially early on when they're not used to it yet, as we write an email as them with a bold opinion, because being contrarian is important, not just an email with everything. And at first they're like, oh my gosh, and they panic and they freak out and they're like, why did you send that? And then they see the sales rolling in and then they shut up. But we're also trying to be competent and understand that like certain things, we have to figure out where that line is with the client and really learn their voice and their actual opinions and how it resonates with their audience.
Yeah, some clients that I have I've worked with before, they're like really like say it exactly like this, write exactly that. Like we've done copy for clients, and it's kind of harder. The more strict the client is, the harder it is to write for them because they hate everything. So when you look at writing emails for clients and for your own stuff, how do you take a look at the tone? Do you find that like professionalism or like being fun and upbeat? Like how do you go about approaching the actual tone of emails?
It's almost like I want to give people an inside perspective on what the founder is actually like. So if I'm on social and I see you and your personality and it's always this way, when I get on your list, I don't want to really stay on your list if it's the exact same as Instagram, for example. So when I get on your list, it should be personal and private. And that's kind of what email is anyway, because if you look at social, if I post something and you want to comment on it or watch it or whatever, there's like thousands of other people potentially that are doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. So it's almost like you're in the middle of this arena and there's everybody that's watching you and they all see the same thing. But an email, even though an email could go out to 100,000 people at once, it has that feel of like, hey, it was just sent to me and nobody else knows that I'm reading this right now. Nobody else can see if I reply. Nobody else can see if I click and go check this out. It just has that intimate feeling. And you want to make sure that you're giving off that vibe when you write. So I love being personal. I love sharing things that aren't on social media. And it just really incentivizes people to stick around and feel more connected to you.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And there are some people, the thing is the emails I'm subscribed to from people, I don't think like that. Like it's just a lot of promotion and, even my friends' email list, like, sooner or later I unsubscribe because it's like, there's so little value. So what's the philosophy you subscribe to when it comes to value-based emails versus sales pitches?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say the same thing as earlier with when they subscribe. I'm going to hit them early and often about the thing that they subscribe for. So whether they are interested in buying something or whether I'm trying to upsell them something, or maybe it was just a free opt-in and I want them to take some sort of action, I'm going to go pretty hard after that, at least for the first few days. And then I'm going to try a completely different angle, which in a way is almost like value in content when you're trying different angles just to see what resonates with somebody. And you can infuse elements of story in there without just making a super short email that says, hey, go buy this. So that's what I like to do. And then after that period of a week or two, if they haven't taken action, then I'm going to ease off a little bit and I'm just going to give them a lot of value because it means that they need to build trust with me first. I think there's some chart somewhere that says 3% of people are ready to buy right now. So I want to try to get those people, and at a lower price point, it's more than 3%. But that's kind of the philosophy there. I want to grab whatever percentage of people that are ready right now and understand that another group of those people will take a week or two, and another group of those people won't buy for months, but they will buy. The silent lurkers, a lot of times, are the biggest clients.
I also have noticed that different offers relate to different people, right? So someone comes in, and let's say they come in from a lead magnet, free ebook, or something like that. They might come through, and they might be interested in maybe like a low ticket product or more, some more PDFs or something like that. But someone coming in, maybe seeing a VSL, they come in and they're interested in watching more video content. And someone else who comes in where it's like the ad or the whatever the source they came in is to book a call, they might be more interested in booking a call. So it's interesting because I see this with our audience. Like, we've done this before where we promoted the same thing. Hey, book a call for a couple months. And we're like, what's happening? Like, it's worse. And then when we jump in and we put in like different types of offers, it seems to obviously convert better.
Yeah, it's just the truest thing I ever heard from one of my mentors, Justin Goff, is sell them more of the same. So whether you literally sold them something or whether they opted in, they're most likely to respond to the exact same thing. Like, the best upsell ever, if you buy a 3-pack of something, is a 6-pack of that thing. And the more you do that and double down on the product or the style or however they consume it, that's the best way that you can reach that person. Now, eventually they might get tired of it and you can switch it up, and then, there's other things they can be interested in too. But yeah, just really doubling down on whatever indication they gave you so you can just double down on that thing.
Do you have copywriters that write your email, or do you write your own email?
I write my own.
Okay.
That's the only list I run right now. I actually have 2 lists because I have a software company as well called Mail Genius, which is like a deliverability tester for your emails. So yeah, I have a couple lists.
Okay. So for you when you're writing your own copy, if that's what you write your own copy, wouldn't you then argue that every person should write the copy for their own list?
No, because I see what you're saying, but my personality and the way that I like to run my company and like show people what I'm talking about, what I'm trying with email, like I'm always talking about what I'm personally trying, and I love that connection. Mm-hmm. So for me to not write emails when my business is about writing emails would be kind of weird, but I see what you're saying. Like, I've delegated a lot of things, just not that. And technically, a lot of owners might look at me and say like, oh, writing an email is not a good ROI on your time based on your like average hourly rate. But it's something where, to me, my list is the lifeblood of my business. And the way that I think, things happen very fast. So if I want to run a new promo, or I want to have a new offer, a new hook, a new idea, email is my testing ground. So as soon as I think of it, I'm like, I could write about this today. I don't have to ping my copywriter or really anybody else to like go set it up. I'm just going to do it myself really quick and validate the offer or the concept and go from there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you can rapidly test things, it's going to give you a lot more ability to see what's going on and scale. So when you're writing an email, what do you think the ideal length is, and where should the call to action be inside of the email?
Yeah, so the length, you should actually switch that up quite a bit just to test, because in the emails where you're just pretty much straight up pitching the offer, those are going to be a little bit shorter unless you have some explaining to do, where, you want to make sure they have all the information they need. So when they click the link, they're not confused at all. They can roll right into the landing page or wherever they're going, and they have no questions really. But with other emails, when you're giving more value, a lot of times you got to tell a story. It's going to be a little bit longer. Or the best combination is you can tell a lot of stories, and then after a few days, those stories can transition to kind of like having a concept. So what I'm about to start doing as well is talking about cold email. So what I'm going to do when I'm ready to launch that is I'm going to tell a lot of stories about how I started closing some clients from just general like cold messages or outreach. And then after a few days, I'm going to talk about how I use this method, and I'm like doubling down on it and creating a cold email system that is based off of replying to other people's emails. That's kind of the hook, and I can talk about that later. But I'm going to hit that concept for a few days. And then after that, I'm going to go into the pitches. So it's kind of like a really long email telling a story, and then a little bit shorter applying the concept of those stories, and then transitioning that later into like, hey, go book a call so we can do this for you.
Do people that open the emails, the consumer, are they actually, or like the client, are they prospect, are they actually like paying attention to the sequence mentally? Like, oh, I got this email, and then a couple days later, oh, like this one ties to that one. Like, is that actually happening?
They don't think that way for sure. Because a lot of people, they'll ask me, they'll say, I've heard about the soapbox sequence where you tell super long stories every day. And, you're like, if you remember yesterday, I was telling you about this. And I'm like, I don't like that as much because people aren't going to open every single email, even your best customers. They're just busy. Like they have a life. Not every single subject line is going to catch their attention. So I don't like basing them off of other emails. But if you do it the right way and you, for example, you tell the stories and then you hit the concept and then you do the pitch and you just rinse and repeat that cycle, it doesn't really matter if people notice you're doing it or not, because as long as they read, maybe 3 out of the 9 or 10 that you're doing in that cycle, they're going to have a lot of good like info and understanding, and you kind of use those same psychological triggers on them, whether or not they noticed.
I had someone on my podcast recently who's in sales, and he said, all I do is I just manipulate people into buying from me. And I stopped and I said, dude, the word manipulate's a very strong word. He's like, no, I believe that's what it is. Now, manipulate can be good or bad. And he went on this whole tangent about it. Do you think that email and what you're doing is manipulation?
Everything's manipulation, right? It's like in some way, shape, or form, I had to manipulate you to be like, all right, this guy's a good podcast guest. He should come out here today, right? You have to manipulate people every single time you're trying to convince them of something. It's just that word is usually used when there's like, something illegal going on. So people have this bad context with it. So yeah, I mean, it's an okay word. It's just like, again, it's one of those things that if you're cool with that word, yeah, that's great. But the majority of people, that vast majority, they're going to hate that. So that's something that you're just not going to beat the vast majority on. So I don't like the word for that reason.
Okay. What's the craziest thing you've had happen with a list? Have you ever had some like a list go down, or like you lost all of someone's data, or some crazy thing happened?
Yeah, I mean, there's times where, in the middle of a promo one time, I accidentally sent an email at 3 a.m. instead of 3 p.m. And strangely, it performed almost as well as far as open rate goes. And yeah, there's definitely times, like I'm not going to pretend that me and my team are perfect. There's times where we drop the ball, or one time we had a girl on our team. She didn't last long on the team, but she ended up like somehow unsubscribing like this massive portion. It was the segment inside the client's ESP. She just unsubscribed like thousands of people, and we had to go back and add them back in. So, it was a little scaling issue. We tested some people remotely for the first time, and that's when it happened. But we've since cleaned up that process.
Got it. Yeah, I think that for me in campaigns, I've done like almost, I'd say every other month or so, like there's almost like an issue with an email campaign. We've kind of worked through that, but for a long time, it's especially when you're changing people, because there's different platforms and you're sending different stuff. And it's like, someone messes the time zone thing up. Like I've sent emails with no subject line before. I've sent emails where the link isn't clickable. I've sent emails, so I think that's just a part of the learning process.
Yeah. And, I used to be really hard on myself because, like, to be honest, to be an entrepreneur and to be like really successful, like you have to be hard on yourself. And like I learned that through playing baseball growing up, and that's a story for another day. But yeah, there's always going to be little things that happen. You can't catch every mistake that you make. And the only time when it looks really bad is when you're starting fresh with a client and you make a big mistake, and it looks bad because it's a first impression. But if you've been crushing it for that client and you make a mistake, it's like they have more lenience because they know that, it's just a little thing that happened. So sometimes that stuff does happen. And we try to not attract the clients that nitpick every little thing. And we just want the people that are chill. We write the emails, we make them the money, And every so often, is there a little mistake? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like you're in a much better position with us and sending emails than not doing it.
Interesting. Yeah. The thing is there's obviously that learning curve. And I think if someone's maybe like they're running a business, maybe it's a coaching offer and they're not really doing much with email, what's the starting point? Like what's like the step one to do? Maybe they can't afford to hire someone like you to work with them. How do they actually do it themselves and get started?
Yeah. So I would actually just look at the broader funnel of the business, right? So like it's more of a business concept at that point rather than, oh, email is just a thing I have to set up. So if I have a funnel and somebody opts in, and I'm sending them to the next page and trying to get them to take the next action, there should be an email that mirrors every single step, right? So they opt in, they get a welcome email that's also trying to get them to take the next action, buy the next thing, whatever it might be. So just view it as I'm just replicating what I'm already doing in my funnel. Now I'm just doing it in email. And the easiest way to get started is go open like an active campaign account. Let's say you're a coach, consultant. Or if you're an e-com brand, you can go on Klaviyo, just open the account and play with it, right? So an automation or a flow, whatever you want to call it, is going to be the main thing to start with because that's how you replicate the funnel. And then whenever the funnel ends is kind of when you put them in the broadcast pool where you send, the one-off daily campaigns. So that's probably the easiest way to think about it because I know what you mean. It can definitely be daunting if you haven't done it before.
Interesting. So what you're saying is take a look at the funnel. Let's say it's, the funnel is landing page, opt in, they get a lead magnet, they get emailed the lead magnet, then they get hit with some retargeting ads, and then, maybe a salesperson, appointment setter calls them. So we look at that funnel and then we try to pair our emails up to align through the process. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Because now this might be too annoying if you actually did it, but in a fully optimized world, if somebody goes and they opt in, they should probably see an upsell page right away. They should get an email right away. They should get a text right away. They should get a Facebook message right away, right? It's like there's so many different things. We could send a carrier pigeon to their house too with a note. But
is there a service for that?
Maybe. I mean, if there's enough interest, we'll see. But, technically those are all things you should be doing, but you just have to figure out which channels are most important to you. And typically email subscribers, they have the highest intent because they've gone to your site and they've opted in and they've done all those things. So that's always a great place to start. But whatever you find is the most valuable. So for me, it's like my email list and my personal Facebook profile are the two places that make me bank consistently. If I go on Instagram, I have more like B2C stuff there, like learn how to type emails and make money. Not my main channel, probably my third. And then if I look at other places like Twitter and LinkedIn, like they just don't do a lot. So I have somebody repurposing there, but I just figure out what are the most high ROI things for me and I just do those.
Dude, I love that. And so when you say Facebook profile, are you like your personal page or like the profile?
Yeah, personal, not a business page. Those have terrible reach, but a personal profile, participating in a lot of groups with other marketers, and a lot of them will follow you too. So it's like between your personal profile and all the different groups you're in, those are great places to meet people that have money and are those silent lurkers that are always, reading your posts, may not comment every day, but they send you that message, after maybe months of reading your post. Okay, I want to pay you 10 grand right now.
Interesting. Yeah. The thing is I haven't done a single thing ever with my personal profile. It's a bunch of people from high school that used to follow me. Well, and then, I've been in some groups and stuff and people that work with me in other areas that add me on Facebook, but I don't post there or do anything. I bet just like not posting on email, I bet there's a hidden gold mine there. Because, I'm at the, whatever max amount of friends. I think it's 5,000 on Facebook that you're allowed to have. A lot of those people are people who've bought from me or wanted to work with me. So do you do stuff on Facebook, like the same idea where you post, you post content and basically what you post on email, you send on Facebook, or is it a different strategy?
So I do it for myself where, it's largely the same stuff. But I like to put a different spin on it for the same reason. Like if I post the exact same content in the exact same place, there's less incentive for people to follow me in both places. So in general, the concepts are the same, but I always like to switch up something. But yeah, to your point, it's just about whatever's the most valuable to you And at one point, my Facebook also was just a bunch of friends from high school. And then at some point, I realized this is not worth my time. So I started connecting with other marketers, and I probably bought some products that had Facebook groups associated with them. So I just kind of converted my Facebook and like kicked out all the people from high school, and yeah, now it's a business thing.
Nice, man. That's cool. How do you see text messaging, SMS fall into your mix of marketing? Do you do that with clients?
Yeah, so Rob Bailey, one of the co-founders of GHL, he was another one of our clients. Not GHL themselves, but Rob. He helped me tremendously with SMS and just understanding how an agency can utilize it, because previously I thought that it was just for like e-com brands, and I was like, I don't think that could work for me. And that's the thing in general. Like everybody sees something new and they're like, yeah, great for you, but won't work for me. And he just showed me how, maybe at least one time a month, maybe once a week, if I have something cool going on, just send an SMS blast and keep it very personal. And I don't send a lot of blasts, but when people opt in now, they usually get a text from me. I haven't quite finished it all yet, but just like asking them if they have questions, right? Like treating it more of like a one-on-one way for your setters to just talk to people and set appointments or just help people in some way, rather than like sending them a text that, has a bunch of promotional stuff and looks like an email.
How does compliance fall into the mix with emails and text messaging?
Yeah, so that's actually a good question for right now, because Google just released an update on February 1st, right? Where you have to have your email authenticated. And I could talk about this right now and I would lose 99.9% of people because it's very nerdy. But essentially, there's three main security features with email. So there's SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. And if you don't have those set up and you send more than 5,000 emails a day, you're going to just be blocked by Google. They're phasing it in. So they started blocking people February 1st, and by June, they're going to completely block you if you're not authenticated and you're sending that many emails. So that's one example. Another thing is just making sure that you're not sending to people who haven't opted in. It sounds very simple, but that's a big reason why the average person doesn't like email, because they think that the person sending them the email is a hacker, a scammer, whatever, that got their email, and they have no idea how. And the more you can just be really clear with people, they opt in and they get an email from you, and you're not trying these. Now, cold email is a little different because you can legally cold email anybody you want, but don't just grab a bunch of people and put them on your email list. Like, that's a big no-no. And then with SMS, it's gotten more strict too. You have to make sure that you verified the phone number, and you have to make sure that you opt out people. So overall, the concepts are pretty easy to follow. Just got to set them up. Like, if somebody wants to be on your list, put them on the list. If they don't, don't.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I feel like some people don't even, it's like, well, look, I want to email everyone, even if they opted out, like I'm going to re-opt them.
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about earlier. Like if they wanted to leave your list, they don't want to buy from you. So what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Now, you talked a little bit about deliverability there. You said you have a software what is it called?
Mailgenius.com. Okay.
Nice. So what does it do, and how, and like, what's the benefit of it? And then, deliverability is a massive thing. So, if that's not the only thing people need, what else do people need to get high deliverability?
Yeah, so that's actually a great place to start, and that's why I bought it, because I realized that I was talking at like such a high level a lot of times that it wasn't simple enough. So mailgenius.com, I acquired it a little over a year ago. There's about 1 million spam tests per year that are done on the site by a lot of like enterprise level companies, and also, all the way down to like people who just do freelance email. So you go to mailgenius.com, there's an email address on the screen. You copy it, and then you send an email to that address and click the button. And then it tells you everything that's wrong with your email. So it could be like, hey, you're not authenticated properly. Here's how to fix this inside of your DNS. Or it could say, hey, your subject line is really spammy. Or they could say, hey, you forgot the unsubscribe link. There's a lot of different potential issues, so that's a good place to start. So you have some level of understanding where you are right now, because that's the first step to having good deliverability, is just like understanding if it's currently good or if it needs work.
Okay. That sounds like is it just like a free thing you just send to?
It's a freemium thing. So yeah, it used to be completely free when I acquired it, and I've since made a lot of changes, and we're, it was this thing that was just on the internet. It was a good tool, and it just like mistreated by the previous owners. So I rescued it.
Okay, nice. So can I test my emails for free just by sending them to the email?
Yeah.
And then what are the additional things that the paid versions can get me?
Yeah, so the freemium model, if you keep using it and you want to keep testing it on a monthly basis, and you can use it for any domain, not just one, then there's prices as low as $9 a month to start using it. And then we're also adding in additional features right now where we just automatically monitor your emails for you. So if we see any issues, we just email you, so you don't even have to test it anymore. That's one thing. We're also offering like consulting and a suite of different services. There's a lot of people who want cold email. That's why they use the site. So we're starting to offer it. And we're also going to have seed testing as well soon. So that's where we actually tell you where the email lands. So instead of telling you what's wrong, we're like, hey, this email landed in our spam folder or in our promotions tab. And then we kind of coach you how to fix that too.
Okay, got it. So there's like do-it-yourself version, and then you also have done-for-you services on it.
Yeah, I've looked at a lot of the competitors in the space, which are like very corporate-facing companies, and some of the offers are just like monitoring and security. So we're going to have those, and then we're going to have the more like aggressive ones for the internet marketers out there who are trying to avoid the promotions tab, for example.
Okay, yeah, sounds good to understand. Now, when it comes to you said cold email marketing, right? Are you doing cold email?
So here's the thing with cold email. I always hated cold email because it's really complicated. It's like you have to go buy a bunch of domains. You have to warm them all up for 2 weeks. You have to authenticate them all. You have to start sending emails to people. If you get more than like a 1% spam rate, which is now going to be 0.1, and if people mark it as spam, it's going to go to spam. And then you have to basically repair that domain and go back to the other ones you made. And you have to like load it into Instantly and set up all these emails and reply to all these people. And I was like, no. Oh, and by the way, if you do any of that wrong, you have to restart. So I was like, no, there has to be a better way. So what I did for myself is I was like, gosh, what if I just got on the email list of all my ideal clients? So pretty much for me, an ideal client is anybody who uses like ActiveCampaign, for example. So what if I got on the email list of everybody who uses ActiveCampaign that lives in America? And as soon as they email me, if they land in the promotions tab or spam folder, I just reply and be like, hey, you landed in promo. Here's a quick video about how to fix this. So at first I had a VA. So I basically scraped a list of websites. So not leads, just the websites. And I had a VA go and opt in for all the websites, and they would run into this Google sheet. And I created this really super complicated 32-step Zap in Zapier. And I had it where it was basically automatically emailing people if they landed in promotions or spam. And there were all these like cross checks and different ways to cycle the emails so it's not the same, and it would like verify them. So I built this really complex system that I'm actually turning into a bot right now, because when I built the prototype for myself, I spent probably like $2,000 to $3,000 to set it up, and we made 21K in cold email after like a month. And then we had some issues with the Zapier connection breaking. So for the new version with the bot, I'm fixing all that stuff, and it's going to launch this month, and I'm super excited to test it for myself. I have my beta testers, and I'll probably offer it as a service in March, but I'm calling it the anti-cold email system because it's wild, dude, how few issues there are with actually delivering the emails and all the headaches of traditional cold. This gets rid of all that, and it gets way better results. Because I hired a dude to do traditional cold email. I paid him $5,000. I remember on June 10th of last year. And he booked me like one unqualified call the entire time. And after 4 months, I was like, hey, man, I don't want to be that guy to file a chargeback. So like, please refund me because the deadline is tomorrow. You haven't gotten me anything. And eventually he gave me a refund. But I was like, I'm never dealing with traditional cold email again. I'm going to do it my own way.
Interesting. Yeah, dude. I had a guy that is a good buddy of mine describe and experience almost the T of what you just said. Paid $5,000, guided email, got 0 results, and ended up doing a chargeback. So cold email is definitely a challenge. We do a lot of cold email for ourselves, and also with agency owners that we consult with. We help them set up cold email because the bulk of the work is in the setup, and it's very complicated, and you need a lot of leads, and you need a lot of domains to get results on it. So your strategy is super fascinating, where you basically opt into other people's lists and have them, and then when they send you, you just respond to that email. Is that what happens?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a method that I used very early on, probably like 3-4 years ago, where if I was on somebody's list or if I, knew the person who owned the business, I would just DM them on Facebook or reply to their email and just say like, hey, I noticed you landed in the promo tab. Here's how to fix that. And I'd book a call. So now this is just taking that at scale. Because, I've trained, oh my gosh, probably close to 1,000 people now in email marketing in general that have paid for some kind of coaching or program. And that's the number one method that works for them if they actually go implement and they don't give up after sending 2 messages, right? So anytime you can personally outreach to somebody and you can send them a very quick note and maybe like a 1-2 minute Loom video showing them a problem and how you can fix it, and it's explaining the value, that's the best way that you can get a client.
What do you think about the landscape of internet marketing and kind of where that's moving towards in the future? I feel like there's a lot of been a lot of coaches. A lot of coaches kind of fell off in the last year or so as it kind of got harder to sell and the market kind of shifted. What do you see the future and the vision of that?
Gosh, that's a loaded question. With the coaching industry in general, I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. Now, the individual people who are coaching, that will always change because you're right. There's going to be times with the economy where it's really easy and anybody making any kind of promise will make sales. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But only the people who are consistent and have good fulfillment and don't get in trouble with the FTC, like they will stick around for the long term. So the coaching in general is not going to go away. It's just simple, and people are starting to realize too that college is not all it's made out to be, and this is the new way of learning. So the coaching industry is here to stay. Things are going to get a little bit easier, which makes them more competitive because of AI, right? So now anybody can basically create any kind of like image or video content, and they can literally make it of themselves without even being present, which makes it so much easier to compete, but there's so many more competitors. And having that quality level of content that feels personal, those are the people who are really going to stand out and win. So that's a little bit about the industry, but as far as offers, like it's always ebbing and flowing and changing, and should I do low ticket or should I do high ticket? At the end of the day, you just have to have a good offer. I always tell people, if you were in your market and you saw your own offer, would you buy it yourself? Mm-hmm. And if the answer is, if you can't give it a yes, then the answer is you're going to struggle at some point soon. And it's really just about being creative.
Dude, I've got some kind of rapid fire questions on email for you. So maybe like 10, 15 second answers for these. Plain text or fancy emails?
HTML. Don't make them too fancy, but don't do plain text because then you can't click links.
Oh, interesting. So you'd have like a button that would be a button?
So in plain text, what that technically means is you're only allowed text. And you would have to copy the link and paste it into a browser. But I think what you're saying is fancy or not. I usually don't go fancy. I just include images if they help tell the story.
Okay. And so like no logos or branded emails.
It doesn't feel personal that way. It feels like you're a company selling to me.
Okay. Link or hyperlink?
Link, because I always want the text of the link to match the subject line or like the general concept. Although you can switch it up.
Call to action on every email or no?
No.
Using AI to write copy. What do you feel about that?
If you can train it to sound a lot like you, it takes time to get there, but you're always going to have to tweak it a little bit. So teach it the frameworks, teach it your style, and it can generate ideas, but it's not at the point where you can just click a button and send it. And if you do, you're going to fall in that group of people who struggle in the long run because your content sucks.
Best platform to use for a coach?
ActiveCampaign.
ActiveCampaign, okay. JVs and promoting other people's offers to your list?
I do it. I like it. I actually sold a whole business, copywriting.org, that had to do with that. So that's all the business was.
Pitching other people's offers?
Yeah, that too. And I had a pretty viral content strategy, but It was fun. That's not a 15-second answer.
Okay, cool. Well, that's the end of those questions. So you can elaborate on that, and then that's pretty much the podcast. So I'd love to know that you just hinted at this very viral thing. So
See? Okay, so I had the opportunity to buy copywriting.org a couple years ago, and I bought it. And the reason I wanted it so bad is because one of my first clients, it was called Hustle Island. And it was this community of entrepreneurs, right? Like we're all hustling, but sometimes we're alone. It feels like we're stranded on an island. What if we were all stranded together? So it was like a community. And one day the founder had this idea, what if we gave people the opportunity to talk about themselves? And I was like, that's smart because people like a spotlight. So we sent the email to this list. It was about 100,000 people at the time. And we said, hey, can I interview you and post it on our website? And a good click rate, right? Like 2, 3, 4%. It kind of depends on the email. We had 2% of the people fill out the entire interview form, like a typed interview, like what's your name, where are you from, what do you do, and then like 5 more questions. So we had over 2% of this list fill out the entire interview form, which is an insane completion rate. The site crashed. We could never finish the project. So when copywriting.org became available and I had an audience of copywriters who follow me, I was like, why don't I repeat this? So I sent some emails to my list, which at the time was probably like 10 to 12,000 people. And what we did is we took all their interviews and we posted them on copywriting.org. I said, hey, I'm going to post you on the site next to people like Stefan Georgi, Justin Goff, Jason Capital, John Carlton, like all the big names that I reached out and interviewed. And we had 712 people fill it out in the first like month. And then we posted it on the site and we incentivized people. We said, hey, if you share this, you have a chance to get featured on the homepage. So they all shared it. It went super viral. The website itself had like, I want to say 169,000 page views like in the first month after we launched. And then we took all the 712 like interview answers and we created an article called the 44 most popular copywriters of 2022. And that, if you don't know about posting popularity contests, they irritate a lot of people if they don't make the list. So that went super viral and got shared like crazy. And then we did it again last year. And by that time we had like, I think over 2,000 interviews that were conducted. And, we had upsells on there too, like doing video interviews with me for 15 minutes for $1,000. And it was crazy. And we gave people the spotlight for a lot of them for the first time in their life. So it was really cool. We made a lot of money and then we promoted a lot of copywriting offers. So it was a super fun project. And then I exited it about a month ago. So
nice,
it was fun.
Congrats, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Love that strategy. I think it's clever. You tapped into your list to kind of get that initial foundation and then finding, or whoever's list it was, then finding a way to turn that into this viral strategy.
It was fun.
So dude, how can people connect with you, learn more about you?
Yeah, so I'm most active on my Facebook personal profile, Troy Ericson. If you're more of an Instagram person, which is where I talk a little bit more about like how I run my business, and if you are interested in running a similar business, Yo Soy Troy is my Instagram. And then my email list, of course, the best place is faqemail.com. Basically, it's a list of FAQs that people ask me about email, and I give the answer. And then you get on my list, and you get some fun emails.
Dude, that's awesome. Dude, thanks for coming on. It's been good.
Yeah, it's super fun. Thank you so much, Dylan.